Right. Okay. Angela, thank you so much. Official Black Magazine is super excited to have you. I saw some of the footage from the show coming up. But one thing we love to talk about is not the show that you're in. We love to talk about your story, your journey. That's something that we love people to connect with because you've been in the industry, you put in the time and the effort. So who is Angela?
Oh, that what a complex question. I mean, I grew up in Texas, like outside of Houston, Sugarland area. So I'm a little bit Houston. I went to school in Chicago and then worked in Chicago a couple of years before I moved to New York. So I'm a little bit Chicago. And then I've been on the East Coast in New York ever since. So I'm a lot in New York. Um, I'm a little bit of a combo
Yeah.
of a lot of experiences and a lot of regions that I love and I take with me everywhere I go.
How do you feel that's actually helped you when you come into so many different characters, because you play a variety of characters. There's not one, which is amazing because in such an industry, especially for black women, where they can try to pigeonhole you, you've been able to make sure you navigate it in ways. So this is a two-part question. And a
Okay.
lot of times people say, Mike, you ask us pageant questions like, how will you save the rainforest? Right? So how has that shaped you, and how have you been able to navigate utilizing everything you've been through to not get pigeonholed?
Mm. I think that the opportunity that I have been given to travel, right, to leave home, go to school outside of my home state, and then move to another place was a gift, right? I think that very early on, my mom instilled in me that, like, you get nuggets from all different people in all different places. Never think that you are ever going to stop learning. So I think for me, that has really worked out for me. So I carry the lessons, the time that I spent in places, the people that I have met. And I think that that helps me as an actor because I can access moments, I can access experiences and times and regions. So I think that, we talk diversity doesn't just mean this. I think it's like diversifying your mind a little bit to new
Yeah.
situations that you might not be exposed to. And I have to say, I'm just really grateful to have come from parents to really expose me and encourage me to be curious. And I think that that has really helped me, especially as an actor, but also as a human being.
Yeah. Nice. I love that. It's like you've been able to be a method actor all your life because you've been everywhere, basically, right? Because I'm from LA and me and my husband, we went to go visit some friends in Chicago. I'm so Southern California. I'm like, hey, everybody. But we visited Chicago in January. And I said, this is that weather that killed my bird because this is crazy. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, why is no one laughing, smiling? They're like, it's cold. What do you want? What do you want? I said, okay, you know what? I get it. It's that thing going on. So that's just a little fun tidbit. But you said something about your parents, that they opened you up early in. So did they open you up early into the arts, or was it just to let you be free and explore what your mind felt like exploring?
I think it was a little bit of both. Like I grew up in a household with um, parents that were very progressive. So like on one hand, we were in church every single Sunday, and it was church and then Sunday school, and then after on Sundays we would go to dinner and we would talk about what we learned. So like I was from a very early age, my parents were like, let's talk about what you were experiencing. Let's start to mold you.
Yeah.
So that was really cool for me, especially as an artist, because as an actor, you need to have opinions.
Yeah.
So from very early on, my parents encouraged me to have opinions and they listened to me. Um, Also, I grew up in a household where my people loved theater, and they were like, "We're going to go to the movie and see all the things that your friends are seeing, but we're also gonna go to the theater. We're gonna expose you that." So like being able to see Black theater, especially in Houston, was so wonderful, but also to be able to go to the ballet. I'm very blessed to have had parents who really encouraged me to be diverse in my art appreciation as well.
Nice. I love that. They really broke that stigma we sometimes have in the black community where, black children aren't supposed to use your voice. You're not supposed to only speak when spoken to, but to encourage that. Has that been something that's helped you even navigate life better when it comes to relationships, professional and personal?
Yeah, I think that as an adult, I can say I come from a heart place, right? I feel like no matter my gender, my sexual preference, my religion, whatever, I think if we all come from a heart place, then we can sort of get to the same end result if we desire to be. But I think my parents encouraging me to like be open to different opinions has been really was really good for me. And I carry that in spaces with me that like all of us are not, we don't come from the same experiences. So if
Yeah.
you come to the table and you're open-minded about it and you speak from the heart and with love and understanding and compassion, then communication doesn't have to be tricky. So I was taught that early on, and it really has helped me navigate challenging situations, especially as an artist, because it's like, cool, I want the same thing you want. Can we break this down a little bit?
Yeah.
So that's just, I mean, that's me. That's the core of me. It's like I'm like, we're all humans trying to navigate this crazy world, and I operate from a heart space. Is kind of what has helped me.
Nice. I love that. I love that. So now let's get into the career of acting. So where did that love come from, and when did you start professionally saying, because everyone has a different type of term of knowledge. They have a different term when they say professional actor. Some people are like, if I haven't worked yet, I'm not a professional actor. Some people are like, as long as I'm in a class and I'm hustling and bustling in these streets, I'm an actor. You might not see me, but you don't see me yet.
That part. I mean, I was definitely a little Black girl who had a towel on her head, singing, all the time, acting and singing, as a young child. So I think my people were like, let's see what this really is. So they encouraged me to explore things. So I grew up singing in the church choir. I grew up being in like school plays. But I sort of say I got the bug. I got bit by the theater bug when I did a production when I was in high school of Peter Pan at a big theater in Houston, and I played a boy. I was a lost boy, and I fell on stage at the bow, and I was like, "Oh God, oh my God, I've messed everything up." And I got up and people were still clapping and they still loved the show. I didn't ruin the show. And I was like, oh, I somehow like these spaces that like I could be imperfect, still be creative and still be appreciated. So that I think that's really where I fell in love with being an artist, to be able to be loved and accepted
Mhm.
and be able to be creative. So that's what really sort of like got me interested in. And then I started just like doing a little more research about what it meant to be an actor. By the time I had to go to college, I was either going to be a politician or I was going to be an actor. Some people might say they're very similar, but I chose to be an actor, so I moved to Chicago and then started studying in Chicago. And I'm so grateful and thankful for my education in Chicago. There's something different about Chicago actors that I'm super proud of to like wear that armor.
Nice. Why didn't you choose to go to like LA or New York?
I was scared. I was scared. Yeah, like growing up in like a smaller town of Houston, I'm an only child. I Even though I had traveled and I was like, okay, I know these places, but I was a little scared.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that really meant to like not be at home, not be with my family, and then to move away and then also do this thing that nobody else in my family was doing. There are no other artists in my family. So it felt very like I was jumping into this situation by myself, even though I knew I was supported. So I was like, nah, I'm gonna go to the Midwest. This feels this feels a little more in my control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I love that. When was the first role part project where you're like, you know what? I trust I'm on the right path.
Oh my God. I did this show called Crowns, which is an adaptation from a beautiful coffee table book about Black women adorning their heads and in church and what that really means, and orishas. And
Mhm.
I was too young to be playing this part, but a director went to the playwright directly and asked if we could make an allowance for me to play this part at a few different theaters. And I was like, I think I'm meant to do this. If people are advocating for me, for Angela Grovey to interpret their characters, even though this is not the way a playwright intended it at this time, then I was like, I must be adding something to the conversation.
Yeah.
So that, I think that was for me, was like, oh, it's okay for you not to be the thing on paper that they think they want. My job is to go into the room and be such a good actor that I maybe change your mind and say, oh, she doesn't have to be this way, or he doesn't have to be this way. It can be a man, maybe not a one. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think that gave me the like push to
Yeah.
be like, oh, and I can change your mind? Fierce.
I love that. You
Yes.
know, you said something that's interesting. You said that I can be the one that changes what you're thinking on paper, right? What is it? What is your thing? What is that je ne sais quoi that is Angela that changes my mind? I wrote this script and I'm thinking this person is supposed to be this, but you come to mind. Your real comes to mind. Someone pushes your project, it pushes your information in front of me. What is it that you feel or you know? Let's say I like to be affirmative when I speak in the present tense. What is it you know is that thing that differentiates you that only Angela could bring to the stage?
Mm. I know that I am beautiful. I know that I am complex. I know that I'm sexy. I know that I'm intelligent. And I think that those characteristics about me make me a really interesting choice. Um, I know that about myself. I know that about myself as an actor as well. So I can pull from that, but I know that about Angela.
Nice. I love that. When has there been a time, and the reason why you probably wonder, like when we do interviews for the magazine, I love people to, I love it to be a human touch. You know, I love people to understand you as a person outside of a woman, black, anything else that layer, all the social cultural things that we layer up. I just love people to get to be the spirit of who Angela is, you
Mm.
know, and your struggle. You've been tried and true through everything. So when has there been a time where you something made you almost question all the core of you that you were like, this is like, you know, like you didn't get that part, or they maybe wanted you to do something outside of your comfort zone that wasn't like pushing you to the like, you know, there's a difference between push outside the comfort zone and then there's like, whoa, Charlie, I don't know what y'all thought this party was, but this is not it. Have you ever
Mhm.
had a moment like that?
I have actually. I was cast in a show, in a theatrical show, an off Broadway show, my first off Broadway show, and there was some nudity involved, and I wanted so badly to be a part of this production, but I was also scared to be the person that said I'm uncomfortable with this, because I didn't know that I could say that. I didn't know that I had earned the right to speak up for myself and to advocate for myself, not only as a person, but as an actor.
Mhm.
And I mean, I really had to go back and forth about that. And I talked to some friends, I talked to, my representation, thankfully. And I said, I'm going to roll the dice on this one. And I need to speak up for myself.
Yeah.
But it was hard. I was so scared. I was scared because I wanted this so badly, but I wasn't able to settle with giving up that piece of me, my integrity, my personal integrity. Like, no, I have no feelings about what other people do, but it was my choice. And I felt like I was scared to do
Yeah.
it. And I didn't know that if I was worthy enough, um not worthy in myself, but like if I had enough power or
Yeah.
pull at that point in my career to advocate for myself. And thankfully I was working with a director and a playwright, and we were able to talk about the moment and come up with something that still served the piece.
Yeah.
And it was an important lesson for me to learn about advocating for myself. I say that to just say that outside of me being an actor, I work for a not-for-profit and I create arts programs for young people and underserved communities. So I work a lot with the Covenant House, which is a safe place for homeless and trafficked youth all over the United States and Latin America. And I teach kids about advocating for themselves. But I think that that lesson for me at that point in my career allowed me to be able to tell young people how they can also advocate for themselves. So that was a good lesson, not only for me as an actor, but just like as a person, that it's okay to speak up and speak out. That's okay.
Nice. I love that. Would you advise any actor, it doesn't matter if you're just starting, to speak out and not feel like you have no voice? Because sometimes they feel as if I say something, I'm missing this opportunity. But for you, it was more so that I prefer that this does not become the opportunity because I don't want to look back and say I sold part of my soul to get a check or to stay on the stage.
I think that it's important for everybody, like I was saying, to like communicate from a heart space, right? Of like, if it feels right for me to say this and I'm saying it and communicating it in a way that is solution seeking,
Hmm.
then I think you got to roll the dice a little bit on
Yeah.
yourself and bet on yourself a little bit. And I hope that on the other end of it, the person on the side of it receives that. But I think as long as you are good with how you communicate it, I think that's step one. You can't be
Nice.
responsible for what another person is going through or how they receive it, but I think it's important to speak up for yourself now more than ever. It is important. We have to start speaking up. We cannot sit silent any longer.
Nice. I love that. So when you get on stage, when you get in front of that camera, you get in front of what is your preparation? How does Angela turn into this person? If it was Joyful Noise to this newest production, and I want to always keep it in there since things aren't released just yet. So I'm gonna always just say the newest production. We'll be able to, I'll just make sure that Jessica knows we'll touch on that sooner it gets closer to that. I'll just send some questions follow up. But this and being in the issue and being on there, it's about you. And so I'll just use some questions to follow up about like the show and everything else for those entertainment pieces. But yeah, so how do if I'm Angela, what's the first thing I do when I get a script? If I'm Angela, if I'm here, what do I do?
What do I say
What
here?
do
What do
I
I say
say?
here?
Who are they going with? Do I empathize with them? Do I make that backstory? Did she turn her head?
You're like literally that's character analysis. Like
Yeah.
that's 101. And I mean, I was like, God, I should have paid you instead of all that money to that conservative. No, I mean that's where I start. I said, what does the text say? I love that. I like, let's go back to the book. Here are the facts.
Yeah.
Everything else that's important for me for a character. I have to start with the facts. What do people say about me? What do I say about myself? What is alluded through like stage direction? So I go through it in a very technical way. And then I start to color it. So I use some of my techniques that I learned in school, and some of it is based on what the character needs, what's called for. A lot of times I'll find similarities between myself and the character that's very easy to access and pull from. Um, and then this is so like strange. A little thing you'll find out about me is that I always make a choice about my character's nails. It's very strange, but I've started doing that for the past, like I would say 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm It's such it's a small detail, but for me it puts me right into the world
Yeah.
of what choice does this person make, this woman make for her nails. So if you ever just like watch stuff that I do, especially on camera, you will peep. I make choices with my
Yeah.
nails for my
And I'm gonna
character.
have to rewatch the screener now. See, Jessica, if the link didn't expire, I'm gonna have to have Jessica send me the link again. Otherwise, I have to go back. Now I'll be sitting here looking at it like, what am I?
It's so weird, but I was watching and I was like, oh, I really do that. And yeah, and you'll watch the whole season and you'll see some twists and
Those little
turns.
things, the pineapples, little drops there. Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
For you, with the Covenant House, I would love to talk about that. What got you into that? As nonprofit work.
Mhm. So I grew up. My parents are like, we are blessed. You don't have any siblings. You cannot be a spoiled child. So we are going to give back to the community. I grew up being taught what it meant to be of service to others.
Yeah.
And so I needed to find out what that meant for myself. I happened to sing with a choir in New York called Broadway Inspirational Voices. It's a gospel choir, an inspirational choir that started over 30 years ago during the AIDS pandemic, when the Broadway community was being ravished. And this choir got together to sing music, to inspire, and to heal. And so my work with Broadway Inspirational Voices actually brought me to Covenant House. So I run programs and develop programs for Broadway Inspirational Voices for Covenant House.
Oh, wow.
Um, and yeah, I think about my life, how different my life would be if I didn't have someone loving me in the
Yeah.
gaps of me being a crazy teenager, because I was a nightmare. And so that's my sweet spot. I love young people 16 to 21, because it's a tricky time. And I feel like
Yeah.
I went through a tricky time at that point, and I had support. I wasn't kicked out of my house. I didn't need to leave my house because it was unsafe. So um, I love pouring into young people at that age,
Mhm.
especially if they tend to veer off, and then they
Yeah.
let you know that, like, don't worry about it, I got my own map. And I'm like, hey, how do I support you?
Nice. I love that. You remind me of my mom, may she rest in peace. She passed away when I was 14 of pancreatic cancer. And now I'm married. That's a picture of my husband. He's actually a chief in the Navy. And we've been married for 8 years, together for 10. And I always tell people this story, and I always like to share tidbits because I always like to get connected with the interview. I remember, and when you talked about, like, being supportive, my mom was the reason why I've been always open and honest about my sexuality as a person. I was like probably 8. I was braiding my cousin's doll's hair with her. I always saw my mom do, every black mama know how to braid. And I came to her one day. I was like, Mom, they making fun of me. She was like, Who? I was like, my older brother and our male cousins. She said, Why? I said, because I'm braiding the doll's hair. She was like, Show me what you're doing. And I braid. And she was like, That's why they making fun of you. She said, You ain't gonna be sitting out here not braiding, right? She said, So come here. So we used to have braiding competitions and everything. And that was one of the first things that ever got me used to just being okay with who I am. And it
Yeah,
really it so what you're doing is so important, because being let someone older and someone letting you know it's okay to be you, or at least finding a way to help you be you, is one of the most beautiful things you can do for anybody on this planet. So
yeah.
I just want to say that congratulations on that, or even thank you. And lastly, it's funny because as an actor, as when I talk to a lot of them, there's like this passion, right? And you have this passion. But I feel like, and I could be wrong, if acting went away today, but if you can still help people, you would still be okay.
I would have to be okay, because
Yeah.
there's also like brass tacks about all this. Like, I was like, I'm a person, the first of the month, my landlord is like, you gonna pay my
She's like, I got bills.
I got bills, right? I would have to be okay.
Yeah.
But it has always been important to me to be able to not only serve myself with my wants and desires, which I do as being an actor, but to also give back.
Yeah.
So my perfect balance
Balance.
is to not only serve myself, but to serve others. So I will always for the rest of my life
So,
find opportunities to give back to this community and to the world, because the world has given me so many amazing things. Like, it's given me some tricky things. It's given all of us some tricky things, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be allowed to travel the space. And so I want to pay that forward.
nice. I love that. Last question. What advice would you give to anybody, trying to come up in this industry? And that's always like my last question to ask everyone, because I just feel it's so important to hear it from everybody. Like, what is that you would tell someone if they're just not hitting it? They've hit, but they've not hit as much, or they're scared, or something's let me rephrase it. What advice would you give someone if they're getting in their own way?
Mm. Oh, that is a good question, because you change it, because I was going to go down another way, and then you said, okay, I would say and remind people that they are enough. You are enough. Your interpretation of stories is enough. It is necessary because not everybody has the same um, feelings. And it is important to be diverse in our understandings as artists. That's why there's not just one television show. That's why there's not one genre of movies. There have to be different people and different interpretations. So it's necessary for you to keep driving and to keep hustling because the story needs to be told by you. And I feel like the universe is just waiting to find you in alignment of the right story. But you are enough. You are enough.
I love that.